In this episode, we're talking, how do you know if you're in a trauma relationship? Meaning you're basically in a relationship, romantic one, where you have bonded around trauma. Dr. Glen, you wrote the title for this and the outline, so I'm going to let you lead the charge here.
Yeah, so this basically comes from our existing cases that we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically it's just taking the information from the people that I'm working with and I put it together.
Awesome. And of course, what we're talking about here is going to be an archetypal pattern. So this is a pattern that's kind of common, and all the details, of course, have been, changed up. We're not going to bring any personal details into this, of course.
Confidentiality.
Yes. So it sounds like we got to do some role playing.
We are.
Oh my gosh.
Our acting skills.
So excited.
People are talking about that. Change careers.
No.
Soap operas for me. Soap operas for me, man.
We'll let them talk, but we'll stick to this. Okay. Well, welcome to 12-Week Relationships. This is your place for better relationships in weeks, not years. My name is Pye.
I'm Dr. Glen.
We specialize in basically taking research and academics and combining it with practical, real-world therapy models that, actually do what they're supposed to do. Help you improve the relationships that you have, starting with the one that you have with yourself, working on outwards to your friends, your family, and eventually, of course, your romances, which is the topic today. We're basically talking about, this is most typically like a marital or partner situation, right? Where basically you have two completely different dynamics in a household. And what we learn through the process of therapy is that these two people have bonded over trauma.
Yeah, and this scenario, it sounds like, wow, this is extreme, or this is rare. It's actually very common.
Yeah. Okay. I really want to figure out the role that I'm playing. So why don't you set the playing field? Because I'm excited to.
All right. So we have a couple, and then I'll describe the two individuals.
Okay.
In this dynamic, in this vignette, and then you can make.
And when we role play, we're of course going to play the same-sex dynamic.
Yes.
But of that couple.
Of that couple.
Oh, I got to pick who I want to be.
Yeah. So.
Let's hear it.
All right, man. All right. So the first contestant number one, number one. So this person is highly successful at work. They work at it, they're well respected. They're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
They're charitable. They're told that they're a great listener, happy-go-lucky, positive energy, does so many great things within their community.
Man, this person sounds great.
Yeah, they're seen as they do, and genuinely so, like they really care about other people and they really want to make a positive difference.
I don't see why I wouldn't want to be this person. So what is this person like in the home?
So in the home, this person is punching walls.
Okay, I don't want to be the person.
Controlling, is basically berating the partner, insulting them, cheating on them, right?
Wow.
And then blaming the partner for the fact that this person is cheating.
You're going to be that person.
That's going to be me?
That's going to be you. Tell me who I am now. I'm contestant number 2. I automatically know.
All right. So contestant number 2, this person runs a multi-million-dollar company.
Oh, so they're both very successful.
Both very successful.
Okay.
Runs a multi-million-dollar company, makes huge decisions, stress, board meetings, does things like, people look at this person like, man, they have ice in their veins. Like they don't stress out at all. Like they big decisions, small decisions, like they are a leader that everyone wants to follow. This person's well respected. This person is just.
Okay. What are they like at home, Glenn? We've heard enough. Okay. This person's me.
Okay. You don't want to hear more about yourself?
Well, I'm going to find out right now.
Okay. All right. So in the home, you basically are being abused, and then you have no independence. You isolate yourself. You don't see your friends.
Damn it, Glenn. This actually sounds like me. This isn't me.
And you only worry about my needs and what I want. And basically like you're always second guessing, what to do or what not to do because you're afraid of me getting angry and upset.
You said we weren't going to give personal details, but this sounds like my first marriage. So thank you, Glenn.
I'm sorry, man.
Bringing me. This is great. I mean, I get to play myself basically in this role play. Awesome. Okay. So what is the thing that we're arguing about? Let's go ahead and just like put the whole, so what we really have here is from the outside, I mean, you'd think that this would be a perfect relationship, right?
It looks beautiful.
Both people are successful.
Yes.
They're both high power, all this kind of stuff. And they both seem to be kind and respectful and everything. But then at home, you have this completely different dynamic. And one person I take on the role of the pleasing role, and you essentially sound like a narcissistic asshole.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right. That's you too. You're playing yourself. I'm just kidding.
Thanks,
Glen.
man.
Thanks, man. That is enough to let everybody know that is not who Glen is in real life. The fact that he's like, thanks, man. Okay. What are we fighting about at home? Because I feel like, everybody understands it.
Okay.
But it's also nice to have a little tea, You need to sip the tea.
And you taught me that. That means giving the dirt, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, cool,
Yeah,
man.
have a little gossip, sip some tea.
Yeah, setting a thirst trap. No, that's not right?
No.
Yeah, okay.
You're gonna figure that one out.
I'm gonna figure that one out, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I get to learn all these things from TikTok and then relay them to Glen, and he uses most of them incorrectly. But
all the
it's okay.
time.
It's okay.
But anyway, sorry.
He'll walk around like, I'm thirsty.
I'm thirsty.
I need a thirst trap.
I need a thirst trap. I need a sandwich. I need a thirst trap right now.
That's not how it works, dude. Okay. We're at home. Let's go ahead and play out one of these arguments.
Okay.
What are we fighting about?
So we just ate dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to have sex.
Oh, okay. That's not a problem. Let's do it.
Problem solved. There we go.
Okay. So I assume that I'm kind of...
Like you did the cooking. You came back from work.
Okay.
You did the cooking. You did the cleaning. You put the kids to bed.
Okay.
And then now I'm like, I want to have sex.
Dang, man. I did all this stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Hun, I totally do too, but I'm kind of exhausted right now.
You're being really selfish right now.
I totally want to. I just can we just rest tonight? Like, can we watch a movie or something?
No, man. I want it now. And if you care about me, you give it to me right now.
Okay.
This is why I cheat, man. See, I cheated because you do stuff like this, and it's because of you that I had to risk venereal disease with somebody else because you won't give it to me at home.
I want to punch you in the face right now. Okay, I'm staying in character. No, I know we talked about that, and I know it's not fair that I don't give you enough at home, and I'm not intimate with you enough, and I mean I hope you're not doing that anymore, but I get it. I'm just really tired right now, but it's okay. Let me just put some stuff away, and I'll see you upstairs.
No, I want it right now.
Damn, bro.
I want it right now, man.
Okay. I'm done role playing with you. I don't like you anymore. You played that role too well, Glen. I question. All right. So in reality, this is an extreme case, but I think it's worth saying, and I think you mentioned it earlier, that the dynamic is actually pretty common.
Pretty common. Yeah, I mean, we're really highlighting the dynamics, but yeah, there's different levels of it.
And oftentimes it doesn't go toward the most extreme of cheating and that route, but the pleaser versus narcissist dynamic is something that is very, very common to just varying degrees and whatnot. And we've talked about that before. Okay, so where do we go from here?
All right, so let's go through our bullet points.
Bullet points.
So number 1, you have unreasonable expectations that only make sense to you. So
we clearly know your unreasonable expectation.
Yeah, I get to cheat. You better do what I want when I want it.
I have to take care of the kids, the house, everything. I still help provide. I do all that kind of stuff. And I got to drop everything just to have sex with you.
Pretty much.
No,
sounds good to me, man.
No wooing or nothing. You're just going to demand it right after dinner.
My presence is wooing enough. Man.
I mean, I feel bloated. Have you ate dinner and tried to have sex right after dinner? That's not enjoyable, man.
That's how badly I want it, man.
All right, dude. What are my expectations though? That's the crazy part is
but also, so on the flip side, your expectations are unreasonable in the sense that you have to sacrifice your independence, don't see your friends, and then even the fact that you're entertaining that this is how it's supposed to be.
See, I think that's the primary one. On my side, on the pleaser side, my primary expectation is that this is normal, that this is what all relationships look like, that this is my job is to make you happy, and that, I'm not doing a good enough job. And that's why you're doing these things. Those are the expectations on my side.
Yeah. And then there's degrees of Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you're over-identified with your partner. So in this example, there's definitely a form of that taking place. And that's an unreasonable expectation both ways.
Yeah. What's crazy is from the outside, and I think you highlighted this, that you behave differently when you're with your partner versus other people, right? From the outside, the two individuals are almost unrecognizable to the people that they're close to. Like their friends would never guess that you are the way you are, and they would never guess that at home I would be this pushover either.
Yeah, and then there's that assumption that that translates into your home. And that's the whole thing about attachment. Or if you're secure and you have healthy relationships, the discrepancy is not going to be that big.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to be similar. Like you're going to be loving with your friends when you're at home. You're going to be more loving.
Okay. Are you ready to, what is your next thing? We've basically, you mentioned how we have this complementary wound, right? Because that's the next question that I wanted to ask is, I think it'd be worth going into, especially for everyone that's listening. And if you might be new to the podcast, we have some episodes where they're a little bit more light and we kind of keep it on the surface. And then we have others where we're diving deep. And this one, we're going to dive deep for a minute because I want to talk about what creates the underlying sets of trauma, the wounds that basically are complementary to one another. Because I wouldn't go into this relationship knowing, like for example, if you took any of our case studies, any of our clients out of the relationship, right? And you simply told them 5 years from now, this is what that will look like. Nobody would choose it. If you pulled that snapshot out and just presented it to them, before they got into the relationship, this is what that would look like. Nobody would choose it. Do you agree?
Okay, logically, they would say no, right? But let's say like me and you, like we're together, and then they present that this is how your relationship's going to look. I'd be like, no way. We're going to work out. You're full of crap. I would still stay with you.
I mean, assuming that, yes, you're right that like you could present it and they wouldn't believe you. But let's just say that what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter what level of trauma you have. If you saw it clearly from the beginning, you wouldn't want it.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So something is happening that makes us not be able to see clearly. That makes us perceive the relationship in a certain way. And that's where we get to this underlying trauma. So can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so like a trauma bond. So basically the whole premise when it comes to like attachment is how you are raised. If you're raised really healthy, and what that means is there's two factors. One is structure. You had a healthy structure going up. You knew rules, but they were clear rules, right? And then within that structure and space, you got to become your own person and be comfortable with who you are, and communication and all those factors play in. Then when you become an adult, you're going to use that as your base and you're going to seek out really healthy relationships.
And we're talking about basically going back. So we have this idea of attachment theory where there's kind of 4 primary attachment styles. What you're describing is a secure attachment.
Secure attachment. And ultimately, like that's the goal is you want to have, if you're lucky, you're going to be raised in a secure home. But if you didn't, which the majority of people don't, they're in the other 3 or a combination of the other 3 attachments, you want to work toward a secure relationship.
Okay. But the others would be like, I would say if I'm this pleaser role, then I have probably an anxious attachment.
Yeah. So that's the anxious ambivalent attachment, basically meaning that it's a really rigid home. It's all about rules, follow the rules. And then you're basically like emotionally disengaged from the family because you're just following, and independence is not rewarded. So your whole identity of love is just follow and do what you're told.
So you're talking about the upbringing that I might have had that would have led me to a place where I would see this relationship as being healthy, right? So that anxious ambivalent attachment is very common within, let's say, Asian households. Because what do we have? We have kind of a typical, matriarch, patriarch hierarchy where it's just like, do what you're asked. This is the expectations. There's not a lot of usually affection and attention type. You're the child. I'm constantly seeking the praise and approval of my parents. And that becomes a worry to me until I become essentially anxious about this. And going into my relationship with now you, my partner, as we begin that relationship, what I was seeing are things like, well, that kind of resonated, things that I found comfort in you because you resembled something that I'm familiar with, whether it's my father, whether it's my mother, this strength of like, this is who you are, this is what you do. You would exude that sort of confidence and strength and making me feel like, yeah, they're a healthy and strong individual, just like my mom or just like my dad. And I might not even think about it consciously, but subconsciously, I would be drawn to it because it's familiar, it's known.
Absolutely. And not only that, like you have no in an intimate relationship, the belief or the lesson that you're taught is independence is not rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then you would be attracted to somebody that would make you very dependent.
Mm-hmm. And what
Yeah.
I'd be looking for is opportunities to once again gain your attention, your praise, your anything just like that. I'm essentially playing out that childhood relationship with my parents, but now with you, somebody
Exactly.
who can stand in their role.
Exactly.
Now, who are you to be able to stand in that role, though? What was your experiences?
So that leads to the third one, which is the anxious avoidant attachment. And they're known as a self-preservationist, meaning like, either the parents don't care. Like they're like, yeah, just do whatever you want, Johnny. Like just be home whenever you want. There's really no rule sets. Like they're not really engaged. Or like the kid is really difficult, right? Hey, Johnny, do your homework. F you, mom, I ain't doing jack. Okay, Johnny, do whatever the hell you
I
want.
tried that with my dad
We'll
once. That
just,
didn't work. Mm-mm.
we'll just leave you alone. And I become really difficult when they try to get me to do things. And then therefore, my intimate attachment is I just want to get what I want when I want it. And that's what I'm used to.
And this essentially leads a person to kind of become narcissistic. And
Yeah, I mean, it becomes really selfish, right? And then the fourth one is what's known as a disorganized attachment. And this is where it's an abusive home, right? So then this is where the combination of attachments come into play, right? So you were people pleasing and you lost your independence, but also in that home, there was a disorganized attachment, which means the house is chaotic. There's screaming, there's yelling.
this is my parents.
Yeah, this is your parents as well. So not only do you have to follow rules, but there's yelling and screaming and abuse going in the home. And then it goes into this reverse cycle. It's so chaotic.
This is so creepily accurate in defining, because I
Yeah.
said earlier that this is basically my actual, like you're describing me, and this is my actual household.
Yeah, so like very chaotic. And then you, the kid, even though you want to be parented, right? You end up parenting the parents. And that dynamic leads to chaos. So now you have a combination. So in this vignette, your primary attachments are the people pleasing, the rule following, and then also losing your independence, and then this chaos, and then this need to like fix things and be there for others while sacrificing your independence. That is what intimacy means to you.
You'd be the perfect person to play it out with.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, I'm really selfish. And then this other person, they had another disorganized attachment because the partner, the father was abusing the mom, but then he or she would basically just kind of do their own thing at the same time. But then when the other parent was seeking their support, man, get the hell away from me too, man. That was your problem, right? And then so they're developing that narcissistic self,
Yeah.
right? Because they're learning in this home that in this chaotic space, the best way to function intimacy is I got to preserve myself.
Got to do my own thing.
I got to self-preserve myself. I'm not going to think about anybody else.
Yeah. And this is one of those, we've said that. This case sounds extreme, but it's very common. And this narcissistic tendency, I think it's important anytime we bring that term into play that we have to, again, remind everybody that narcissism is a disorder. It is not a disease. And there's not a clear definition of like, it's not a 0 or a 1. It's a spectrum of narcissistic behavior.
Yeah.
And you have on the one side, you have kind of, and I know people hate the term healthy narcissism, but we'll save that for another day. But on the one side, you have like you have the people pleaser, like the extreme opposite. Then maybe in the middle, you start getting to somewhat narcissistic tendencies. And as you push more to the right side, you start getting to full-on narcissism. And if you keep going, then you get to like psychopathy, right? Like being a psychopath, basically.
Yeah, antisocial killers.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we're not saying narcissism in these relationships, if you're with the killer, you should stay and work out your wounds.
Definitely don't do that.
Get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there. That's not what we're arguing here. Yeah.
And even we're not arguing to stay or go in any instance. That's up to the person regardless. But it is important to know that I think narcissism itself is demonized as if it's a one-size-fits-all definition, and it's not. But we've talked about this, how the pleaser versus narcissist plays out in many of our relationships. And this is one example of this. So what you see in me then would be the fact that I am kind and supportive, and I'm willing to support you and to do the things that you want. And if I was that parent, if you did have those experiences of, Johnny, what do you need to be able to do your homework, Johnny? I would be that person that, again, is familiar to you, and not only is familiar, but plays into your own needs and your own wants.
And then once again, nuance is really important and degrees is hugely important. So for example, for these attachment trauma bonds to happen, it doesn't happen like when you're just attracted to anybody. Like when you meet somebody, they're really hot, they're really pretty, I'm really attracted to them physically, or I like their personality. That's separate.
Yeah.
But once you make a decision, I'm going to commit to you in this relationship, that is where that trauma bond usually, that's where it occurs, because you're making that decision.
And for both people, what's happening is that there's a familiarity and a sense of, this is normal and this is right and this is...
It feels so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once again, that's called like the unconscious eye, right? Like the attraction feels euphoric. You're on cloud nine. It feels like something is cured, right? Because that's why it feels so loving. Like it gets mistaken for love because, oh my God, this is the answer, because it's coming from this place of desperation.
That to me is the most, I mean, we talked about like, if this episode is, how do you know you're in a trauma bonded relationship? That to me is the most clear indicator of it. The unconscious eye, that if you feel euphoric, that is a red flag to slow down. I mean, a new relationship should feel good. It should feel exciting and fun and adventurous and all those things. It should feel euphoric. But in that feeling, we also have to pause and see, like, is there a piece of this that could be driven from something that I need, something that I want, a gap, a trauma, anything? Because that would be, for me at least, the biggest tell in this relationship.
Yeah. And then, to give it context, like it's not only just relationships. Like what if you're really struggling with money and then you find a job and you're like, oh my God, this is going to cure all my woes and I'm going to become a millionaire now and it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
And you become euphoric. That's not healthy, because you're putting all your stock into this one thing, and there's no guarantee that it's going to work out.
Yeah, we talk about that quite a bit, though. That again, to say that if you're in a desert and starving, I could put anything in front of you and you'd eat it, and it might satiate you for the time being, but that could be anything. I could put something completely unhealthy in front of you. It could be McDonald's, and for the time, it might do its trick. But if I gave you McDonald's every single meal, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're starving, that's not a great time to try and figure out,
Yeah, and it's overvaluing. Like the Eddie Murphy joke about the cracker. If you're starving, get the cracker. Oh, this is the best cracker I ever had. It's crunchy, it's salty.
I thought it was going to be a racist joke at first. So I'm glad
the butter, because even though it's just a cracker, when you're desperate, you value it to this high extent because it's a wound. It's coming from an extreme pain.
Yeah, and that's that euphoric feeling that we talk about is
correct.
When that euphoria is created from a place of need, holy crap, slow down.
Correct. And then, biologically too, it comes from the pleasure sensors in your brain. So your pleasure sensors if you're in a physical altercation, to protect you from pain, your pleasure sensors turn on so that you can fight and survive. In an emotional context, when there's a wound coming out, the pleasure sensors fire at the same way. And that's why I feel so euphoric.
But you don't feel it. I mean, it doesn't come across that way.
It feels like, oh my God, I'm planning my wedding. This is it. This is amazing.
It feels like fate.
It feels a hype. But if you really like things that are really worthwhile and secure, like, hey, I got to work for it. Or this feels really good. The energy level is at a higher level. It's not this desperate feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So number 2, so you behave vastly different when you are with your partner versus how you are with others at work. So we covered that. The work scenario versus how we are at home.
Yeah. We went through the complementary kind of trauma.
You and your partner share a complementary wound.
I think that one's one of the things that I wanted to add to that. We've already kind of gone through it in depth, but a lot of people think that trauma bonding comes from having mutual trauma, like you both share the same trauma.
No.
And that can happen. Like maybe you're both drug addicts, and so that's something that you can relate to. But what we're talking about more often than not is complementary trauma,
the
not
law
necessarily
of
identical.
Yeah, you're complemented. You're going to pick the person that complements a wound. So if I'm a if I'm a person that's a people pleaser, and I have two choices in front of me. I have a healthy person that's like, hey, let's talk things out, and I give you good boundaries, and you're giving me independence. Or I have another person that's going to tell me what to do and take away my independence. I'm going to choose that person.
Well, on top of it, but you're right.
I'm going to push the healthy away.
The healthy person is not even going to be as attractive either, because the healthy person is going to show you love and affection in a manner that is going to slowly ramp based on the level of the relationship, right? But the narcissist is going to love bomb me. The narcissist at the beginning is going to tie directly to that. I mean, I've been hunting for that praise and the approval and my parents' attention and affection and all that. Well, the narcissist is going to love bomb me, and at the beginning just give me all the intensity and text me and do all this stuff to make me feel this way.
And I'm going to feel like, oh, this is so awesome. This is so healthy.
It looks healthy compared to the actual healthy relationship.
Exactly. And then on the flip side, if the other person, the healthy person is pursuing, oh, they're annoying me. What the hell's wrong with them? Why do they want to, they're nice, but they're just boring. Like you hear that a lot, right?
For sure.
This, I don't know what it is. This person's so exciting, but this person is so boring, but they're really responsible. And then they laugh and think like, oh, this person's a problem. No, it's actually your baggage is the problem. Your baggage is coming out.
And the funny thing too is if you're the narcissist, if you love bombed someone that was healthy and secure,
they'd be like, ooh, get the hell away from me.
Exactly. They would quickly set up their boundaries and be like, no, that's very strange behavior. I'm good.
Stay the hell away from me.
So it's a dynamic that's perfectly set up for this.
Yes. And that's the law of complements, which goes to number 5. At the core of intimacy.
You forgot though the patterns.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
You commonly have the same patterns in relationships.
Yeah.
We did a post on that about like, this is what we're saying with an archetypal pattern is that you'll break it off once and then repeat it.
Yeah. If you don't address the wounds, you're just going to keep repeating the pattern over and over. And that shows that it's trauma. Like an extreme example is if you're abused in the home, you're going to pick an abusive partner when you're in high school. And then when you're 20s, you're going to marry an abusive partner. You're just psychically, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
And again, when you fall into those patterns, you know 1000% that this is trauma-based bonding.
Yeah, and it's the euphoria. Oh my God, this is the one. Oh my God, this is amazing. And you're just going through that same cycle over and over and over.
Okay, now number 5. Sorry to cut you off.
No worries. At the core of intimacy, you seek discipline and structure over a healthy relationship. So, for example, in our dynamic,
this is my desires. I seek the discipline and structure.
Both.
Okay.
So like in this relationship, this unhealthy trauma bond relationship that we're in, the narcissist, if I dominate you and I control you and you do everything that I want, how do you think I'm going to feel about you?
Well, you're not going to respect me, but you're going to be happy that I'm doing it all.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to continuously treat you like crap. But what if you're like, no, and I go, yeah, if you start limit setting with me, like I start insulting you and you're like, yeah, cool, man, then do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, then I'm going to go have sex with that other person. And you're like, then that's what you should do.
I see what you're saying.
That to the narcissist. So dysfunction, this is one thing about dysfunction. In a dysfunctional relationship or environment, whenever you try to rationalize with the dysfunctional person, you are the weakest link. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Like rationalization and talking things out, that's in a healthy environment. In a dysfunctional environment, they just look at you and like, dude, you're just shut the hell up, and they're just going to walk all over you.
Yeah.
In a dysfunctional environment, the only thing that a person understands is structure and discipline, and that's it. Right? So, for example, with the narcissist, in your scenario, if I'm insulting you, I'm going to go cheat on you, I'm going to do this, then that's what you should do. But I'm not having sex with you. Then you should leave. Yo, this is why my parents, they hate you and they say you're gutter. Well, that makes sense why they call me that then, because I'm not going to have sex with you today.
Interesting. So the discipline and structure you're saying is me coming into it as the people pleaser and setting those hardline boundaries.
And when you do, you're healing your attachment wound because you're establishing your independence at the same time. And then with me, now my crazy, when you're limit setting with me, I have to sit in my own crazy. And underneath, basically a narcissist at the core of it, they're just seeking, I'm getting validation every time you do what the hell I want, right? When you're not validating me and then you're setting boundaries with me, now I got to sit in my own crazy. And then what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to start pursuing you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then when I start pursuing you, right. So now this dynamic, right, then I'm going to have to start limit setting too. Cause you're going to so it's this whole thing, like structure and discipline goes both ways in a chaotic relationship, and it's giving it to each other in a healthy way so that people can heal their wounds.
So that's the fix in this scenario. If let's say that this is a fixable situation, because I don't want.
So this example, in this grouped example, all these couples are not ready for couples therapy because it's too toxic, right? They have to be individually accountable, work through so the structure and discipline is already set up. When they came and like, we want couples therapy, no.
Yeah.
It's going to be individual. We could do it after. We can maybe do like some hybrid version, but right now, independence and structure. And then when they got that, they're like, cool, okay, we're ready for services.
Yeah. We gave that analogy of like that was a different episode, right? I think that was the last episode that we talked about the car and the hammer.
Yeah.
The reason why you don't go into couples therapy in these scenarios is because what Dr. Glen is saying is that neither of them are ready. It's like you can't begin to fix the car. We talked about this analogy of like the futile act of give one person a sledgehammer and another person the ability to patch the car. And the sledgehammer guy is just going to go around the car and keep banging holes while you try and keep patching it.
Yeah.
It's impossible. It doesn't work. And that's why they have to be divided. So if two people are in this scenario and they genuinely, that's the new way to say that word. When they genuinely want to actually work on the relationship, then it's doable, but they have to be separated first and then brought back to the table once these things are addressed. But there are many situations, and this is what I want to say, is that there's a lot of cases where the narcissist is not even going to come to the table. They're going to continue doing their thing. And the other person is left there hoping and wishing and staying based on a hope and a wish. And those are cases where you have to recognize that whatever you do is not going to change the other person's mind. They're going to do what they're going to do on their time, their decision only, not on your timeline. It's important to understand because it's weird. We don't want people to leave good relationships too soon, but we also don't want them to stay in unhealthy relationships too long. And you have to know. You have to know which of those cases is which. And obviously working with a qualified professional would be able to help you in this. But I do want to play this out. You gave the fix, right? Essentially, both people need this structure. For the people pleaser, I have to be able to step forward and say, if you're going to cheat, go. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not. I'm not going to have sex with you. Not after doing all this stuff. You want to divorce me? Cool. Do your thing. And on your side, you'd have to eventually come around. The problem, though, most commonly that we encounter is that the people pleaser can't say those words. This is going to be the first struggle because the narcissist never has a reason to change until the people pleaser first overcomes their own wound and sets those initial boundaries, right? Because they're afraid.
Correct.
They're anxious. They're stuck in that, well, what if they leave? What if they do this? What if I can't find somebody? What if we get divorced?
They're in their pathology. So limit setting, when you're limit setting with me, you're doing two things. You're countering the wound of dependency, establishing your independence, and then you're sending a message to me of respect. And I'm starting to respect you at that point.
Yeah. I wanted to play that out a little bit just because I feel like this is one of those cases where the solution is very easy to lay out and yet incredibly difficult to do. And in the majority of cases, it just doesn't happen. The people pleaser, basically they just wait until they're so distraught, so angry that they're just done and they just leave.
Yeah.
But they never set the boundary. And that's where the pattern repeats because they never initially set the boundary and actually did the work to say, I'm not going to be afraid of them leaving. I'm not going to be afraid of this happening. I am good enough for myself. I can provide these things for myself. So what they do is they wait until they get so fed up that they just end the relationship, but they don't address the underlying wound.
Correct.
And then they go back and repeat the whole cycle again. Wait till they're so fed up that they leave one more time.
And this is the other thing too, like this is another common thing that happens. So the pattern like you're constantly being abused, but it could flip too, where like I'm fed up, you get into a relationship, and then you become the abuser.
Mm-hmm.
So on the outside, it looks like, okay, yeah, at least they're taking a healthier step because they went from the abused to the abuser. But in truth, they're just still in that pathology.
Mm-hmm.
They're success within the pathology of pain because they're not being abused, but they're still doing the abusing, which means that they're still in that cycle anyway.
Yeah.
And so it really takes seeing the pathology in totality and really making positive changes.
This leads me to a question that we've been asked that we should actually do in another episode, which is, what are the steps to overcoming or to not being a people pleaser anymore? How do you actually overcome the anxious avoidant attachment and work through this for another time?
Yeah.
But that reminds me of it.
Yeah. But yeah, these are the 5 points that came in, and thanks for that act. Thanks, for playing it out. You're an excellent actor.
Well, I wasn't acting. That was actually who I am and what I do. So yeah, no, I just literally laid it on the table. Mm-hmm. But I hear that the best acting is kind of like where you take personal experiences and you just bring it out to real life and like tweak it a little bit. So that was method acting.
You were there, man.
I was method acting.
You were there, man.
Is that method acting? I don't know if that's what it's called. I don't know. Okay. Well, this was a really cool topic, and I hope all of you guys enjoyed the episode. I think it was fun.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was heavy, but we covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you guys want to learn more about what we do, you can hop on to 12weekrelationships.com. You can also go to join the waitlist if you're looking for one-on-one coaching with Dr. Glen. We're actually going to reach out to you as quick as we can, but I believe sessions will probably begin, like, we do have a good wait list. So we try to reach out, get you booked, get you set, and then plan your first session for when there's an opening in Dr. Glen's schedule. In the meantime, though, you can also sign up for the newsletter, because in not too long, we are going to have online coaching available, which will allow us to serve quite a bit more people. We have hundreds of people on this wait list, and we can't get through it quick enough with just the two of us. So that's going to be really fun. And yeah, and I wanted to say, if they would like to actually support us on the podcast, it'd be really cool if you hop onto the iTunes store and you actually left a review. I don't know about you, but I read all the reviews.
I do.
They're really cool.
They're heartwarming. So. They're really heartwarming and touching.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
And if it's a negative review, don't leave it there. Just DM myself or Dr. Glen by going to 12 Week Relationships on Instagram. And you can send us a message. If you have questions, critique, feedback, send it there. We do episodes now. We actually just filmed one where we were addressing some of the questions that we were receiving from DM. So we don't do therapy or advice over direct messages, but we will take your questions and we'll bring them anonymously onto the podcast to discuss and give thoughts on. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That was a mouthful.
That was, man. You did a great job, man.
Oh, thank you, bro.
You're welcome.
I like you again after this.
Thanks,
That role play, man. I mean, you got into my head. You were like stone cold. Man, I've been cheating on you too.
Method acting, man.
Bro.
I'm learning from you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good job.
Thanks, man.
Okay. We'll see you guys.
Take care.